welcome to another exciting episode of the Insurance Untangled Podcast. I am Naren, Arulrajah, one of the co-hosts of this podcast, dedicated to helping practices that are tangled up with insurance. We talk about topics that help you take more control and create a bigger and better future for you, your patients, and of course, your team members. Today, my guest is Gary Takacs, a dear friend and one of the co-founders of Insurance Untangled. Gary and I are going to be talking about a topic that many of you are interested in. Is it possible for me to successfully resign from PPO plans? Before we jump in, Gary, hello, welcome.
Hey, Naren. Looking forward to joining you today on the Insurance Untangled podcast, talking about one of my favorite topics. And that is reducing insurance dependence.
Absolutely, Gary. You are known for the podcast, two podcasts you host, thrivingdentist.com. We'll put a link to that, plus lessinsurancedependence.com. And both podcasts, one is a long format podcast, 45 minutes. The other one is around 20 minutes. You provide so much knowledge. So it's like a free MBA without, the hassle or the money associated with an MBA.
Well, thanks, Naren. Yeah, I enjoy podcasting, and I found it when I started the Thriving Dentist Show back in 2011. My goal was simply to share useful information with dentists in a convenient format. And here we are 12 years later, and the Thriving Dentist Show actually is the #1 dental podcast with listeners in 188 countries. Kind of crazy to see how podcasting has really blossomed into a very useful educational format.
And we all have you to thank for, Gary, because you are the one who created the first dental podcast. And, today it's one of the most popular ways dentists learn.
It really is. And it's so convenient because we can listen to it on our commute. We can listen to it when we're doing our fitness. And it's really, on demand in your pocket with your phone.
Absolutely. Let me jump in. I have 4 questions for you from the Insurance Untangled community. And let me start with the very first question. I'm in a highly competitive location where most dentists are PPO providers. Can I successfully resign from PPO plans in my situation, in my environment?
What a great question. Thank you, Dr. Franz, asking that question. The reality is, I think about, here in the United States, there are areas in the country that are underserved with dentists. There are. However, those areas are becoming harder and harder and harder to find. Most parts of the country are very saturated and highly competitive. In terms of, I think of the dental profession, highly competitive. But I'm going to share with you a different way to look at it. Those of you that know me know that I'm an eternal optimist. The glass is absolutely half full, in my opinion. Now, even in those areas that are highly competitive, Naren, this is according to the ADA, half of the adults in the United States have not been to the dentist in the last 2 years. So let's go find them. Let's go find those people. And so, even in areas that are highly competitive, there is massive opportunity to help your patients enjoy the benefits of great oral health. Now, to answer your question even more specifically, in my coaching work, we have worked with, the Thriving Dentist Academy. We have worked with dentists in all states, and over 400 practices successfully resigned from PPO plans. And many of those clients have been in highly competitive areas. So under that adage that if it's been done before, it must be possible. You've heard that saying before, Naren?
Yes.
Well, it has been done before. So it absolutely is possible. Now, I don't want to suggest that it's easy. If it was easy, everyone would. You know what the easy thing to do is? Sign up for a PPO plan. That's the easy thing to do. Oh, and by the way, give up 45 to 50% of your revenue. I said it was easy. I didn't say it was smart. But the easy thing to do is sign up for a PPO plan. Do what everyone else does.
Right.
The hard thing to do is to create a practice that people value you for other reasons. You have a relationship-driven practice where we know, like, and trust, where your patients know, like, and trust you, and you truly develop rapport and relationship with your patients. If you're willing to push the envelope on that, then I have a very optimistic message, and that is you can successfully resign from PPO plans. You know what the PPO plans have done, Naren, is they've essentially commoditized dentistry, because that's what, Crown, they pay the same fee to every dentist, as if every dentist was the same. Well, they're not all the same. And if you can work on differentiating yourself from those same practices, then there is a segment of the population that will seek you out. And Naren, there's never been a time in our history, in human history, where people have been more interested in their health than they are right now. Would you believe that to be true?
Absolutely. I think it all happened thanks to, internet, and we have so much information. People know so much more about health today than they did, 20 years ago. And therefore they're more interested in health today than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, there's a universe of people that want to have the benefits of great oral health. They want to enjoy their natural teeth for a lifetime. And they're willing to seek out providers that will help them with that. And as a listener to this podcast, that needs to be you. That needs to be your office. So yes, I can answer that question confidently. Yes, even in a competitive area, this can be done. How can I say that so confidently? We've done this with our clients in highly competitive areas, and they've been very successfully doing so. So if it's been done before, it must be possible.
Thank you, Gary. You are 100% correct. I mean, if it's done before, it must be possible. And you have done it in every state, every city in the United States, 400 success stories, so 400 plus. So I'm glad you cleared that up right off the bat. Let me go to the next question. This I also hear quite often, Gary, that is 85% of my patients are PPO patients. Can I do this in my practice?
Yeah, that's a great reference point. Again, another great question. Now, when practices are PPO practice, the number one way they get new patients is by being listed as a preferred provider on the insurance company's website. So as a result, over time, that becomes the dominant source of new patients. And what at one time might have been a small minority of the practice, over time, historically becomes a very high number. The kind of percentages that we see in my coaching work, remember, having done this over 400 times, we typically see 75% of my patients are PPO, 80%, 85%, 90%. The highest I've ever seen was 97%, Naren. 97% of this doctor's practice were PPO patients. And yet he was able to successfully resign from PPO plans, even where it was so tilted, toward being PPO patients. And, over time, what we want to do is we want to replace Delta as a source of new. I'm using Delta because they're the 5,000-pound gorilla. Replace Delta as your source of new patients with another source. And the source that I would suggest today is Google. Google. Mm-hmm. And so even though it may seem from your vantage point that there's no way I could do this, given that I'm so heavily infected with PPO plans, I'm going to tell you it absolutely can be done step by step. And it can be done because we've done that. And, it's something to be mindful of as you go about your planning, but it isn't something that should make you feel like there's no way I could ever do this here.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people who ignore their health for 20 years and then step by step, they take back their health. And then they're healthy for the next 30 years of their life or 40 years. So you have done it 400 times. So, you are an expert in this. So I totally, I've seen it happen because, we have mutual clients and I see how their businesses or practices get transformed.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that optimism and sharing that, answering that question. 85% of my patients are PPO patients. Can I do this in my practice? So thank you for that, Gary.
Yeah.
This is a good question also from one of our listeners. I am a detail-oriented dentist. What process do you use with your clients when resigning from PPO plans?
Well, over the years, we've actually developed a 6-step plan to successfully resign from PPO plans. It's quite literally a blueprint to follow. And think of this as your preparation. This is what you do to prepare to successfully resign from PPO plans. And if you do your preparation, one of the byproducts of that is going to be you're going to retain more existing in-network patients that you have in your practice. That's one of the ways we measure success here, Naren, is what % of our existing PPO patients did we retain when we went out of network? What % did we retain? And the goal is that we want to retain as many as we possibly can. So that's one of the ways we can kind of measure success for sure. And so in the process of doing this, we developed a 6-step plan. Let me walk you through that. I'll number them 1 through 6. Number 1, we need to know our data. And that simply means we know how many plans we're on, how many active patients that we have on each plan, and what the resignation notice period is. Every plan will have a requirement for you to give an advance notice. It's typically 30, 60, or 90 days. So step 1, we have to know our data. That information is very useful as we plan out the details of our strategy to resign from those plans. Step 2, we need to master digital marketing to replace any existing patients that you're going to lose. And secondly, to replace the historic flow of new patients that have come from the PPO plans. Hypothetically, let's say you're getting 20 new patients a month from Delta, from being listed as a Delta preferred provider because they go to the website and see you. When you resign from Delta, you will immediately be delisted from that listing, and you'll no longer be there. And so if you're getting 20 new patients a month from Delta, if we annualize that, at 12 times 20 is 240 new patients a year coming from Delta. Well, part of your marketing needs to be replace that historic flow that has come in from Delta, as well as replace any that you might lose when you go out of network. Step 3, create an in-office membership plan. An in-office membership plan is one of those granular details that allows you to roll the red carpet out to attract people in your community who don't have dental insurance. Step 4, fully train your team in every one of their roles in resigning from PPO plans. Fully train your team. Very, very important detail, because successfully resigning from PPO plans is not an individual sport. Rather, it's a team sport. Your entire team needs to be engaged. They each need to know their role. They have to have some verbal skills training, frequently asked question training, and how to do this in a way that shows a consistent message coming from each and every one of our team members. By the way, in my coaching work, that's one of my favorite things to do, is get team members on board and to get team members really dialed in to playing their role in this. Think of it as kind of like a supporting cast member of a play. They may not be a featured actor or actress in the play, but the supporting cast is very important as well. Step number 5, elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. Elevate the relationship-driven aspect of your practice. The more you relate, and what does that mean? That means we know our patient's name, we know their spouse's name, we know the kid's name, we know their dog's name, we know their hobbies, we know their interests. We know what college they went to. Maybe we know that Linda is taking care of an elderly mother right now. The more relationship-driven you are, the more successful you will be when resigning from PPO plans. And step 6, add high-value services. Add high-value services. What I mean by high-value services are the more advanced types of dentistry that you would like to do. These could be things like placing and restoring implants, adult orthodontics, could be cosmetic dentistry, it could be oral conscious sedation, could be complex restorative dentistry. It could be diagnosing and treating obstructive sleep apnea with appliance therapy. Now, there's no menu to follow when it comes to adding your high-value services. You have to pick the things that you like to do, the kind of things that would get you excited about taking a massive amount of CE to get your skill set to the point where you can implement those in your practice. And the whole reason why step number 6 is important, Naren, people pay for what they want before they'll pay for what they need. And all of those high-value services are things that people want. There's the 6 steps. Now, Naren, what I'd like to do is I'd like to provide our listeners here in the Insurance Untangled podcast with a link so that they can listen to, we did a Thriving Dentist show called The 6 Steps to Successfully Resign from PPO Plans. It's an hour-long podcast that goes into a lot more depth around those 6 steps. Naren, where will we put that link so that our listeners can find that?
Absolutely. We'll put that as part of the show notes, Gary. And, so just go to the website, insuranceuntangledpodcast.com, find this podcast, and you will see on the page with all the details, a link to that other podcast. Or if you want to go direct, you can just go to thrivingdentist.com and just search inside the website for 6 steps, and you will find that podcast. So 2 ways for you to get there.
There we go.
Gary, I do have a quick follow-up question. You said the goal of these 6 steps is to reduce the amount of patients you lose, right? And you said you want to keep as many patients as possible. I know you're a numbers guy. You like to be specific. So can you give me some, like, what have you seen in your coaching work in terms of what percentage of the patients, drop off versus stay if you do things right, meaning you do follow the 6 steps?
Well, first of all, I just need to be, very blunt and direct. When you resign, doctor, from PPO plans, you're going to lose some patients. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and tell you there's a way to do it and not lose any patients. Why am I not going to sugarcoat that? Because I've never seen that happen. In over 400 practices in my client base, I've never seen a practice not lose some patients. So you're going to lose some.
Right.
However, when you follow the 6 steps, you're going to lose fewer patients than you think. Now, one of the things that I do with all of my clients is when we get to the finish line, when we've successfully resigned from however many plans we're going to resign from, in most cases going all the way to fee for service, we do a debrief. Now we have to let a recall cycle go by because it's that next recall cycle that'll really be providing us the data of what % of our existing patients stayed with us. So we have to let a recall cycle go by, and a little bit extra time because a recall cycle isn't exactly 6 months. And what we do then is we have the data. We have hard data. And I'm at the point in my coaching where I reach the finish line with 2 or 3 clients a week. And we now reach the finish line. We now let a recall cycle go by, and now we look at the data. And every single time when we look at the data, my client says the same thing to me every single time without exception. Gary, I lost fewer patients than I thought. I thought I'd lose a lot more patients, but I lost way fewer than I thought. I hope that's encouraging to all of you that are listening to this, because, if it's been, I said it before, but it's worth repeating. If it's been done before, it must be possible. Well, if you follow proven strategies that have been implemented many times, you're going to see those same results. And you will lose patients. The bottom line is you lose the patients who the only reason they're coming to you is because you're contracted with their PPO plan. They really don't care about the other tangible reasons why it'd be useful to come to you as a patient. The only reason they're in your practice is because you're contracted with their PPO plan. You're going to lose those patients. And you know what? Given that you're losing money every time you treat those patients, given the 45 to 50% adjustment, frankly, you're better off losing those patients. And you end up with those that appreciate you for reasons other than you're on their plan. And that maybe is the pathway to creating a practice that provides personal satisfaction, because you're taking care of patients that you enjoy, surrounded by a team you love. And those patients also value you. That's why they stayed in your practice.
Thank you, Gary, for this wonderful conversation. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our listeners did as well. Any parting thoughts before we wrap this up?
I just wanted to sound a note of encouragement. Perhaps the most important strategic decision you could make in your practice is to quit handing 45 to 50% of your revenue to the fat cats at the insurance company. And just imagine how you're going to feel when you're surrounded by patients who truly appreciate what it is that you do for them.
Gary, you are humble, but I know that a lot of people who are listening to this podcast know you already. They see you as the expert when it comes to reducing insurance dependence. And that's because you have been doing this longer than pretty much anybody else in dentistry. And you did it, with your own practice, Thriving Dentist, and then with 400 other clients. Can you maybe talk about how your coaching program works. And if, let's say I'm listening to this, I am one of those people with 80% PPO dependence or even 40%, and I need some help because I'm sick and tired of, giving up so much money to the PPO plans, and I want to get rid of them one by one. So talk about your coaching program and perhaps how they can reach you.
Yeah, maybe the best way for anyone listening to the podcast who would like to know more is to schedule a coaching strategy meeting with me. You can go to www.thrivingdentist.com/CSM. That stands for Coaching Strategy Meeting. That'd be a Zoom meeting with me. The purpose of that meeting is for me to learn about your practice, for you to learn about our coaching, and together for us to decide if that would be a good fit for us to work together. We are accepting new clients. There are times where we don't accept new clients because the intensity of our support it's very intense, and we do provide an awesome support level to our clients. However, we are currently accepting new clients. And if your interest was to successfully resign insurance from insurance dependence, I would love the opportunity with myself and my team to work with you to perhaps make that most important strategic decision you'll ever make in your practice life. Again, www.thrivingdentist.com/CSM. That stands for Coaching Strategy Meeting.
We'll also put that link in the show notes. So in case somebody wants to easily get that link, we'll put that. So once again, it's thrivingdentist.com/CSM. Gary, thank you for your time today. And for those listening, thank you for joining us today with another amazing episode of the Insurance Untangled podcast episode. If you enjoyed today's episode as much as I did, please share it with your friends on social media. We also appreciate your reviews. Your reviews will help other doctors find us. You can write a review for us on iTunes or Google Play. Till we meet again, have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you.